Can you hear me?
Yes.
It's redirect.
Do I need to, I don't need to watch it go onto YouTube at all. I just stay on Zoom.
Yes.
Okay. Because it takes it from Zoom to put onto YouTube. It's integrated.
I'm wondering because it's live right now, but I can hold on. I'm thinking about muting this live because it's like it's a little delayed. So I think we're live. So I think all I need to I'm gonna split the screen. Hello everybody who's watching this. Because we are live. If you're watching this now in real time or later, this is our first live on this particular platform of ours.
Mhm.
So doing the workings out. Um, I made another screen for the YouTube just so I can see any kind of chats.
Okay.
But I muted the YouTube because it's got a little delay, which
Like
was confusing me at first.
interference.
Yeah, it was a little delay, so it was a little confusing at first. But yes, here we are.
It's a
We are
divine.
live
Okay.
and it is on and popping.
Fantastic.
Well, divine Friday to you, my dear.
Divine Friday to you.
We did speak a little bit off live, you know, but
Mhm.
don't you want to tell everybody how you're doing and who you are, how we want to get into this?
Well, hello everybody. I am Marie Antoinette Price, and I am the sister of dun, 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 Livia Grant. And
Can you guess?
yeah, I am a divine feminine guide, and my what I do is I help women to really embody their divine femininity, in particular, integrating their shadows and dark femininity. And I do this through a variety of mediums, including resources and coaching services that are available. I put my links in the live, but you can find me at Marie Antoinette Price and all my offerings and services there. But my passion is really just activating what lies within us as divine feminine beings. And so over the years, all the ventures that I've embarked on, that has been like the running theme that connects them all. And at this point in my journey, um, it's it's like I'm bringing together everything that I've ever learned, everything that I've ever experienced to really create such an impactful experience for people that are connected with me. So yeah, that's just to sum it up. That's just to summarize who I am, what I do. And yeah, I'm so excited that Liv and I have embarked on this Divine Fridays journey, which is part of her Emerald Club. And it's a society where women get to explore full potential. And they do this through a variety of mediums and platforms that we'll explain a little bit later on down the line. But yeah, that's just a summarize around what I do.
Love it. Well, obviously, because we are in this together. And yeah, so to kind of reiterate what Marie said, we are sisters first and foremost. And when I say we are sisters, we are literal sisters, same mother and father, grew up in the same household. You know, sometimes you can be like your sisters and feel like, oh,
Mhm.
it's a terminology or no, we're actually sisters. So
Mhm.
um yes, my name is Olivia Grant, and I am what I would consider a women's or a goddess guide. Um, and my mission is to help women remember their divinity, help women awaken to their divinity. There's so much power within us. and we're in a world that is changing rapidly and is in need of the awakening of women. And in terms of femininity and feminine energy, I feel like a lot of us know that we are in a space right now in which feminine energy is rising regardless. And so there are there's a need for spaces that women can feel safe to come into and to connect with one another, to kind of talk about what they're feeling and the things that are being awakened within them. Because there's some women who are aware of what's going on and these energetic shifts that are going on in the world. But if you've kind of been a person that has been really kind of infused and embedded in society and the ways in which they have told you to operate, it can be feel like quite a challenge when you're being called to operate in a different particular kind of way, but how you've been living and what you've accepted to be the ways in which you succeed in life are in contradiction. And so that's kind of where what I do and what Marie does comes into play, especially with our venture that is her Emerald Club, um, a global society for women to tap into the highest possibilities available to them and to maximize their potential. And we are building that as we speak. And it is really is a safe haven for women and a safe haven for those who wish to step into and start operating from a more expansive place, who want to welcome in expansion and to discuss growth and the changes and the ideas and the things that are being awakened within them with other women who are going through that same thing. I always say magic happens when women come together. And so, yeah, that's what our mission is with her Emerald Club. And in terms of what that looks like, so it is a platform and a global society, which means that we are connect. Our intention is to connect to women all over, and they will be connected via our app, which will be launching soon. And so there will be a place to, like I say, connect. It will be a place filled with resources. I like to say perspective shifting resources, um, things that you may not initially think to pair together, ideologies and um, just information about our power and who we are and the direction that the world is going in and how we can utilize that to elevate. So lots of different kind of resources on there, and just so much more. So we will definitely be going further into that, but at heremeraldclub.com is a page for you to kind of join the waitlist and see where that goes. I don't know if you want to add any more about her Emerald Club and your thoughts on the direction of things and what we're doing.
I just feel like the time is now.
Mm.
Like the time is now to really put here's a phrase, put your money where your mouth is, right?
Mm.
In the sense of energy. So there's a lot of conversations taking place, and we hear divine feminine beings, divine feminine energy, and women this and women that. And yeah, that's beautiful and powerful and great and awesome and needed and necessary. But the next level is the manifestation, the actualizing, the integration, creation, and really taking these tools and resources and connecting with other women who have so many tools and resources and networks, and really amplifying your life. And I think having a place that is a safe haven for women at this moment, where we can come together and really tap into those resources and connections and really tap into the highest possibilities available to us as individuals is necessary. It's necessary. And the more that I learn along my trajectory in life is the greater the importance this holds. And you and I have spoken for years on this sort of topic and just expansion, and I just I can feel it with every fiber of my being that this is something that is needed and necessary. And so We haven't spoken much about it prior to this point. We've alluded to certain things and we've expressed, this is a global society and platform, but details will be coming soon. And it's for those women who are serious about absolutely living life to their absolute fullest. Like, no excuses, no exceptions, knowing your power. Not just kind of figuring out your power. Like, as a woman, you know your power. This is for you. And so, yeah, I'm truly excited to see the impact, to see how people receive it, and to connect with others who have knowledge, information, and resources that can be integrated as well, because
Yeah,
this is about community, right?
yeah,
It's not about just being the front runners or leaders of something. This is about connecting with other people so that we can really create great impact. And raise the frequency and enhance collective consciousness. And there's just so much. There's layers, there's so much. And the more that I feel that I'm working towards this and on this path is the more that um things are just being revealed to me about just the nature of life and how phenomenal and extraordinary it is, more than you can possibly comprehend. If you already know and believe that life is magical,
yeah,
it's a million times more than whatever you can perceive. And at
yeah,
her Emerald Club, this is just our contribution to really enhancing the magic that life is specifically for our fellow divine feminine beings. So yes, go and click on the links that will be in the description, but it's heremeraldclub.com, hit join the wait list, and then you'll be notified and when everything goes live, and you'll be able to gain access to greatness. That's all
yeah.
I can say at this moment, access to greatness.
This is just, it's really, really, really powerful. And, as you were talking, I was thinking, I was just thinking about ourselves, and our own journeys to even get to this point. And I think it's worth diving in a little bit about our own backgrounds in terms of how we how we have even got to this point of wanting to, or not even wanting to, feeling the calling to um create something like this um for women out there. And I mean, for those who don't know, which I'm sure there's many of you, where we are British, we're from London, United Kingdom. Um, and we have a really, I feel like, unique relationship as sisters. We, over the past, I would say, all our lives really, but in terms of a conscious way and in a conscious manner, um, over the past, I would say 10 plus years, we have literally been on a trajectory of diving deeper into ourselves, into this universe, into the truth. Um, and that hasn't come without its challenges. But for some reason, we have always kind of been aligned continuously throughout this path in our lives. I mean, speaking for me specifically, um, my journey of tapping further into myself and tapping further into truth um, started as a teenager, and I have consistently um, been called to make decisions and make choices that I have intuitively known to be the right choices to make. And I always say, like, I don't know what was inbuilt within me to cause me to feel compelled to go in the direction of my intuition, irrespective of any fear I felt, or any or irrespective of whether people understood me or not. I've always had that pull, and that pull has taken me in so many different directions throughout life. I now live in a completely different country, first and foremost, and that is the result of me following my guidance and my intuition, and it's been a very kind of unconventional path that I've been on. Um, and again, I don't know how much you want to tap into your own story. Um, but I just say this all to say we have lived very unconventionally for a long time. And we often speak about this and laugh because we say, if other people were flies on the walls in some of our conversations, in some of our ideas, in some of the ways, not even for some, in all of it, in all of the ways in which the awakenings that we've had, and a lot of people would think we're friggin' nuts. But it's all kind of come to a head now in terms of it is paying off so, so massively because we now know that every single step that we had taken, every single guidance that we had followed, regardless of the fear, regardless of the discomfort, all such heavy discomfort that we have gone through these past years, it's now we've now come to a point where we realize this had all been for such a phenomenal reason. And all the tapping in, all the diving in that we have done over the years has put us in prime position to step into our calling, to step into our purpose, and to create some serious shifts and change, and to be able to hold space for women in a way that how things had been set up, we haven't had that visibility yet. But now we are moving forward in a way that we are going to create the change that we've been longing to create. And we are in prime position because of all the steps that we have taken. And we just have so happened to be aligned consistently throughout life. I mean, we've spoken on this. We know that we were put here together at the same time to do this together.
Mhm.
And it's phenomenal. And we definitely will dive like deeper into what our individual stories actually are throughout the Hurt and More Club experience. But yeah, I don't know what you want to add to that.
I mean, you've covered some good ground there. It's one of those things where this my journey and my story is so there's so much movement in it that sometimes even taking a moment to try and articulate this path can be challenging for me because there's just so much. But to simplify um, and do the journey justice at the same time, um, as Liv said, our conscious effort towards growth and expansion and ascension began around a similar time, like you said, 10 plus years ago. And along the way, coming to certain realizations about the world that we're living in and things not really making sense to me. But seeing that everybody around me is on this like particular trajectory and train, um, with no amazing end goal. Um, and I speak in relation to just people leaving school, uni, college, going to work, doing the 9 to 5 grind, living paycheck to paycheck, struggling to make ends meet, doing this for decades until retirement, and in no position mentally, physically, psychologically, health wise to embrace life because they've dedicated their life to this machine that doesn't make sense for them as individuals. And that's to simplify and to summarize. And I think that was the biggest when I was able to step back and be an observer of what was taking place around me, I knew intuitively this route was never for me. And I'm someone who uh, is a highly sensitive individual. So, as an empath, as somebody who literally has adverse bodily responses to stress levels, um, it just, there was no way that I could just go down that path that everybody else was going down. Um, and so slowly but surely began a journey of learning, listening to what I'm being told, going against the grain, trying something unconventional, and then trying something else, and then one thing leading to another. And um, I'm not going to sit here and glorify the experience because it hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows in terms of practically what that looks like and the effect or the impact of living unconventionally around people and in a society that is trying to make you do everything in the conventional way. There's a level of resistance there in so many ways, practically, physically, psychologically. There's a lot spiritually. There's a lot going on there. So, but something within me just knew I'm walking the right path here, and I'm going to figure it out. Things are going to be revealed to me step by step by step. And let's fast forward a few years now to the big C that affected the entire planet. And um, there was a window of opportunity for me to travel outside of the UK, so to leave London. And I knew that this is what I needed to do. And in order just to take a mental break from everything, to separate myself from the intense environment that the big C was creating, um, realizing that certain things are going to be mandated and people were being forced to take certain things. I think you can all read between the lines here that I knew intuitively wasn't great, wasn't going to help me, and was most likely going to create a lot of problems, as it did for many individuals, and for others, each their own. They say it hasn't, but so I left. I left London with my partner, and we moved to Jamaica, and we were only meant to be there for a couple of months. That was the plan, but there's a whole YouTube journey on on that experience. I won't even begin because
Yeah,
that's a whole nother story. But by the time we got there, we were like, yeah, this isn't going to be a couple of months type of situation. This is where we need to be right now. And fast forward, then I'm back in London temporarily. Have traveled to the US multiple times since then for significant periods of time. I literally just came back for from
that's where I am.
from spending a few months out there. Um, and so I have been in this kind of like nomadic space of going where I need to go to at any point, and along the way just experiencing such tremendous spiritual realizations, activations, um, which has all led me to this moment here now with you all today. And we'll go into things in more details across Divine Fridays, but also I think we have and I use this word lightly, but I can't think of another synonym to replace it at this moment. But we have a duty of care or responsibility to have a level of transparency um, and openness with our members of her Emerald Club, because people are inspired by authenticity, truth, and they resonate with stories, experiences that connect with something within them or in part maybe mirror their experience. And so there's a level of validation that can take place. And I use that word lightly as well, but in terms of knowing that other people are experiencing this and there's still greatness that can take place, or there's still awesome things that can transpire, even if your journey has been tumultuous. And
Yeah.
so I know that Liv and I have every intention of speaking on our story and our journey, um, and knowing that those unconventional journeys and stories and everything that we have experienced up to date has made us who we are in this moment. And all that we have to offer, our offerings via her Emerald Club and all our extra offerings that we have, like it's as a result of everything that we have done and everything that we have experienced, everything that we have been. So I'm just, yeah, I'm truly excited, um, and honored to be here in this moment working with my sister. I always say it, um, because this isn't something that we've just a random idea we've just decided to pick up and do. We don't operate like that. We are
Yeah.
both very intentional with energy. We are extremely intuitive. We do everything with purpose and passion, and we that's how we navigate our lives. So us coming together and us working together on something that is so powerful is divinely guided and aligned. It's not, as we sometimes say, it's not for play, it's not for show. This is work in the sense of deep spiritual work as well. So super grateful for the human being that is on this planet at the same time as me. And yeah, the power that we have, the power that we are when we come together, especially. Um, I'm looking forward to the impact that that creates as we become more visible. Because we've been doing the work, but now is the time for us to uh be seen in a way that we're not typically used to,
Yeah.
because it's bigger than us and it's beyond us and it's beyond, you know, just doing our things behind closed doors. It's no, you have something that isn't about you and isn't just for you. So you have a responsibility and a duty to be seen
Yeah.
so that people can interact with, receive, um, be impacted in the most wonderful and positive of ways by the messages um, that we have to give. So that's where that's where I'm at.
That is what you just said there is such a powerful message because I feel like us, so many have so much to share that the world needs to hear and that communities need to hear. And you can get caught up in the newness of it, of,
Mhm.
you know, not wanting to be seen or not feeling like your voice is worthy of being heard. And it's like this stuff is bigger than you. You've been designed to hold capacity for this information so that you can share it. It is bigger than you. Like you said, it's bigger than us. So it's like we're at a point where we know that we have no choice but to share
Agreed.
and to help guide and to hold space because we've been preparing for this and we can do it and we're supposed to be doing it. And so that is absolutely so powerful. And so yeah, this in terms of Divine Fridays, the webinar, this is a space in which we dive into a lot of the topics that we have delved into uh, between ourselves and that we want to open up to you know outside of ourselves. And if anything, we are intending to leave viewers with questions to ask themselves and things to dive into and perspective shifts. Um, because it can take one sentence, one word, one alternate perspective to awaken something within somebody.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, this is definitely our intention with this. And uh, this week's topic is a very interesting one, and I feel like it's it marks a real shift in trajectory for us in terms of what we have kind of talked about and shared before. And so the topic for today is timeless goddess insights, guiding the future of innovation through ancient wisdom. Yes. And it's, first of all, that's a mouthful, but it's it's a really, really powerful topic. And um it's something that we've decided to dive into as well because we are in a time in which things are shifting. People are realizing that all is not as it seems or as it has seemed. And we have a rise of, things like tech and artificial intelligence and all these things that are kind of may seem kind of futuristic to some. And I'm not an astrologer, but the astrologers who I have seen and been in contact with just through the internet have spoken about these planetary shifts that are going on and this move into the age of Aquarius and what that means. And it's, even if you're not even thinking that way, you're probably feeling some kind of shift. There have been things that have begun to be spoken about on big platforms throughout the world. There have been shifts in power, and there's a lot. If you are someone who is not even tapped into any of this, you are probably feeling something, some kind of something's going on.
Hmm.
And so us, I would say, ourselves have been, especially over these past few weeks, these past few months, but especially these past few weeks and week, we have really been going through some deep integrations and upheavals of what we thought we knew. And it's like, when I really have sat down to think about this earlier as well, it's there are a lot of things and ideologies and things that we've heard before that have kind of come up to be revisited within us now. But I think because of um, the state of the world and the state of ourselves and our expanded energetic capacity, we are now able to understand these things on a deeper level. And not just understand these things on a deeper level, it gets deeper than that, I believe. It's about things are actually being awakened within us right now. So more than understanding things on a deeper level, we're resonating. It's resonance that we're feeling. It's remembrance that we're feeling.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, the natural progression for us was to kind of dive into this topic. Um, I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's is one of those topics where um when when we came up with the wording, so when we came up with the wording, I was like, yeah, this is great. It felt right. It was actually originally something else, and then we formatted it, and then it was like, okay, yeah, this feels right. Timeless Goddess Insight. And then I was like, okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a little bit more research. I'm gonna look into some things and but obviously that's not how how spirit works at times. And uh I wasn't in a space to be able to do that. And I realized that this was a conversation that is going to take place. That requires us to really tap into innate wisdom, things that have resonated with us over time, um, and speak on topics and matters that you're going to hear this word all the time, unconventional. Unconventional, that will challenge your perception of reality, um, and maybe even triggering in terms of what you know to be true. And I'll be honest, that's my intention, right? Speaking on matters um, that create, like you said earlier, Liv, that create questions and spark, something within you to maybe do some research and look into certain things, learning, practicing critical thinking and not taking everything at face value,
Yeah.
um, learning what ancient really means. And yeah, we'll see how this conversation flows because I have no idea where to even begin, but we're just gonna start.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and the title, so read the title out again, Liv. It was
Timeless Goddess Insights, Guiding
yeah.
the Future of Innovation Through Ancient Wisdom.
Okay. So when I first listened to that and I received that title when we first read it, um, the Timeless Goddess Insights had me thinking that I was going to navigate to ancient goddesses. But fast forward to today, as I was processing the title, I realized that we are the goddesses that are having those timeless insights.
I got that same message this morning.
No surprise
This
there. This
happens to us a lot.
all the time. So we are the goddesses having the timeless insights. So the topic actually is what was the next statement after after the
So
colon?
funny. Guiding the future of innovation through ancient wisdom. I
That's it.
literally got that same download.
Mhm,
It's us. That
mhm,
because like you, it was like, okay, because especially with a topic like this, you kind of think, or a lot of us would be wired to think, okay, this is to be approached from a logical, strategic standpoint, informative, and it's like, this is not what's happening right here. And so as I was kind of just sitting with the energy of this title, especially the first part, so I was like, okay, there's the information about that. What's the angle?
mhm.
And then I realized the angle is us.
Yeah, literally. Like I don't get surprised by the us both having realizations at the same time anymore because it happens all the time. Not just that, but also even when you were speaking earlier and you were about to say certain things, I know exactly what you're about to say. We always talk about this. And I've even come to understand that like scientifically how to even describe what that is because some people will just brush that off and say oh yeah coincidence or yeah because you guys assisted. No, there's something called quantum entanglement and
Yeah.
that is literally what is happening with us. We're vibrating on a particular frequency and so the way that we're wired, we're tapping into these not just imagine knowledge and information, divine downloads and insights that are all part of this collective consciousness web, and we're tapping into it and receiving them
Yeah.
at the same time. So
Yeah.
I don't get surprised by these things anymore, but I'm glad that we are on the same page with
Yeah.
even how we're looking at it. Not that it would have been problematic because it would just given us I suppose different angles, but that to me also affirms okay we're looking in a great direction here collectively so
Yes.
um
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it'll be good. You said a sentence earlier. You said, um, what does ancient even mean? Right. And I feel like that would be a good place to start because, you know, for a long time, even myself, when would think of the word ancient, you think of primitive, you think of less advanced than where we are now.
Mhm.
We think of ancient, I won't even say ancient civilizations, but yeah, ancient civilizations. If I was to hear that some time ago, I would think, those who were living at a way less advanced level than us than ourselves. You talk about things like our ancestors and stuff, and we don't think of our ancestors as being these futuristic beings, right? Because that's in the past, right? But so it's like, and especially when we're in a time of heightened technology and it's not slowing down or anything. And there are many who are kind of frightened by that and saying, we need to go back to the way things were, or we need to take um tips from how our ancestors lived, etc., etc. But the over time and the more and more I've dived into um information about this universe, this world, about us as beings operating within this world, it's come more and more to the forefront of my mind that, and not even of my mind, of my being. It's come more and more to the forefront of my being, and it's been awakened within my being that we are living in a cyclical universe that has had multiple rises and multiple falls. And so there are and have been, and there's so much evidence of civilizations way, way, way before us that were highly advanced and
Mhm.
that were advanced in a way that modern technology, or what we've been shown of modern technology, hasn't even been able to quite grasp.
Mhm.
And it's like, how do you explain that then?
Yeah.
And it's I've had this feeling and idea within me that we have been living and we are living in a cyclical universe that is built up and it kind of falls for whatever reason, and then it starts from the ground up again. But it's not until recently that I kind of made the connection that, okay, if we are living in a cyclical universe, the past and ancient doesn't necessarily mean mud huts and
Yeah.
caves
Yeah.
and like what people kind of tend to think. And it's
Mhm.
like I've held these ideologies within me, but it's like I haven't made the connection. And even in recent times, even over the past week or so, we've been diving into certain material, and um, we've watched interviews with Billy Carson, for example, who I've watched many of his interviews and information before. I feel like for a few years now, I've known of Billy Carson and I've tapped into a few things. But it's like I don't think we spoke about this before. Sometimes you can watch certain things or tap into certain things many, many times, but until you are actually in a place energetic wise to really absorb and thus awaken this information within you, it's not going to register the way it needs to. And it's like everything that I've has come to the forefront of me in recent times has registered in a way, and it hasn't been all completely new stuff, but these things have registered and resonated with me in a way that it hasn't before. That's because of my own internal elevation and where I am at in this point in my life, and where I need to be at this point in my life to
Mhm.
understand and grasp these things. So yeah.
Yeah. No, as usual, agree with everything that you said. Um, I think the the first biggest thing that I really do want to emphasize is, like you said, ancient doesn't mean primitive, prehistoric, mud huts, um, lack of civilization, lack of technology. I think we unintentionally merge those things together. So we have, when we think of ancient, Um, that's kind of it. It's all in one package. It's like it's old, it's dated, it's before our time. And I think a helpful way, I suppose, to even make sense of this is that um, historians, I suppose, would look at different civilizations over the course of history. And if I go back to, because I just wanted to get an actual dictionary definition of even what civilization is, and it says the stage of human social and cultural development and organization that is considered most advanced, right? So you can have multiple advanced civilizations by
Right.
virtue of that definition, right? So we are in a time where we're experiencing this, and in the future, for the purpose of this conversation, I'll say in the future,
Yeah.
because that's a whole other conversation anyway. But in the future, people may look back and discuss this period of time, whatever this era is going to be known as, and talk about the technological advancements that are taking place, which I definitely do want to dive into at some point in this conversation. Um, and there's been ancient civilizations like ancient Egypt or Kemet,
Mm.
and the technological advancements of that society, that civilization is mind-boggling and mind-blowing. And you don't know what you don't know. Most of us have been taught the basics about Egypt and mummification and the pyramids and just very, very basic information. But when you are exposed to researchers who've dedicated the best part of their lives of uncovering truth, whatever that is, without a level of bias for it to be proven this or disproven, just to find out what was, um, you start to realize that what was painted as one thing is absolutely not the case. To fast forward really quickly for an example, is that at the present moment, there's conversations taking place in the US about UAPs. Um, UAPs is another acronym, or another term for UFOs. And at one stage in history, this was denied that there's no such thing as UFOs.
Categorically denied.
Yeah, no such thing as UFOs. Aliens are like for the woo-woo, blah, 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 blah. Now, uh, governments, and at the moment, there's a light being shone on the US government, are literally holding public conversations about the fact that there is extraterrestrial life that exists outside of us humans. Now, that's crazy to think for some people, like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? But this is an example of things being revealed at a later date, um, things that are going to challenge what you have known to be true, and things being exposed to you by the powers that be when it suits their narrative. So I encourage everybody to do their own research. We'll share a lot of information, but do your own research, employ critical thinking. But there's a beauty in being open to receive knowledge and information, and then you use your discernment accordingly, right?
Yeah.
So let's go back to, okay, was you going to say something?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Because I was thinking about, because I mentioned ancient Egypt, right? And learning that there was don't even know where to begin because there's just so much. There were, to simplify, there are multiple purposes for the pyramids.
Yeah.
Um, and the pyramids that are in Egypt are actually not the only pyramids that exist on the planet. There's pyramids that are near enough identical in various places around the globe. Um, and one of the things that came up in one of the videos that we were watching the other day was about um, during ancient Egypt, one of the things that they practiced was it's gonna sound crazy, shifting consciousness from one person to another, um, using uh technology that existed within these pyramids. Now that sounds crazy, right? That you're talking about. You would go, so, however they did it, they would go into the pyramids, and there was some level of technology that could take
In the
consciousness.
rejuvenation chambers,
That's
right?
it,
Yeah.
right? From one individual, yeah, person, and shift it into another individual, right? But what's even crazier for those who find that crazy is that in current times, that's already taken place. Consciousness is being shifted and has been shifted from a sentient being into a computer. And there's a project called, I think it's by 2020, there's two going on, 2045, and there's one
2045.
and then there's one in 2050 that are being spearheaded by different organizations. I think Russia is the one that is 2045, I think. And Elon is doing another one, is on another project. Anyway, there's projects taking place that are now in the stages of uh, learning how to shift consciousness from uh, one person to another in present time. Um, I don't know what your thoughts are on that. Not necessarily, and when I ask that question, it's not angled at whether you feel it's right or wrong, because we're often past those sorts of perspectives.
Yeah.
Um, but in terms of the fact that people would have dismissed that as, let's say, woo-woo,
They
but
would have said you're crazy.
and then now those things are taking place. They shifted the consciousness from a monkey into a into a computer. So the monkey believes it's alive, but it's the consciousness is in a computer.
Right. You know, it's it's interesting. And I think we are in a time where people are starting to employ more critical thinking. But I think these conversations are important because the more the more you are in resistance to innovation and change, is the more you'll be kind of lagging behind all the time. And then you're waiting to be fed little bits of information of what things that have been happening when you could have embraced certain things and utilized it for your own betterment and for the betterment of this planet and your community. Because there are things available to everybody. Everybody has a right to delve in and advance themselves and utilize innovations of this world for the better. But if you're in a space of thinking that this stuff is, first of all, if you're in a resistance to even accepting that everything is possible, then you shut yourself off from your own advancement. And so, in terms of the projects and things that you just spoke on just now,
I am gonna put the links in. Sorry, just to interject. I'm gonna put the links in our description, because I think for a lot of people, what we're gonna say is going to sound ridiculous, and I want
that's
to.
fine. Just do your own research.
I'm good with that, right? Um,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, your perspective is none of my business. But at the same time, I love to encourage critical thinking and to do your own research, to look at things yourself. And so it's not mandatory, but it's kindness to put these to put links about some of the stuff that we discuss in the description. Just if you're interested, you can click on it and do some of the research yourself on exactly what we're talking about. Because we're touching on we speak on this with a certain lightness because we're at a stage in our journey where um there's not much that surprises us because we've released resistance to having to identify in a particular way, having to um, take on certain things as truth, understanding that there's my truth, there's her truth, there's a million other perspectives that can all be true at once. So
Yeah.
when you come from that stance, and um, for me personally, and I use this phrase as a way of explaining how I've shedded resistance, where there's no religious residue, because for me, within the what's the word I'm looking for? The context of religion, it can be you're kind of taught to think within boundaries. No matter what your religion is, there's right, there's wrong, there's yes, there's no's, there's having to do so that way of thinking can make you quite resistant and binary to things that can seem contradictory to anything that you've taken on as a belief or truth. So
Yeah.
just wanted to add that part in.
Yeah, no, no, I definitely agree because it's it's so important to like as human beings, we are boundless. And it's so important to release these bounds that we've placed upon ourselves so that we can see clearly enough to and hear ourselves and feel ourselves deeply enough to feel what actually resonates. Not what resonates within the boundaries of such and such, or within the boundaries of this system that I feel like I'm uh, supposed to be in. What resonates with you as a whole?
Mm-hmm.
That's what's important, and I feel like um, it's just so important to have agency, full agency over everything, over what you are subscribing to in terms of belief systems, etc. Because I'm of the belief that if you anything that is deterring you from tapping into more knowledge, deterring you from asking questions, it's an alarm bell. It's an alarm bell for me. Because as a human being, it's your sovereign right to dive into knowledge. It's your right to dive into, to ask questions so that you can truly feel what resonates within you. Like we all have our own internal guidance system. We're all connected to this universal grid of information. Why should I only be allowed to? It's like going to the library and they say, oh no, actually, you're only allowed to look at the books in this section. And for your whole life, you just read books from this particular section, and this is what this is for you. Everything else is forbidden. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. And so it's like and you said something earlier as well. We have released um identity attachments and identity is a whole other thing. That's a whole topic in itself. But it's important to for people to kind of release who they think they are so they can actually feel who they actually are, which is everything that is outside of these external labels.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're
Yeah.
in these vessels for this temporary time. Um, when these vessels leave, who are you outside of that vessel?
Mm-hmm.
And when you're able to kind of operate from that standpoint, you open yourself up to what actually resonates, like I said, because overly becoming over identified with any specific type of identity, it kind of does that thing like I just described. It puts you in this box and says, okay, this is my identity. This is what the type of person I am does and taps into, and I'm going to stick within that. Whereas it's so important to flow.
Like it I feel like people are scared. They've been taught to be scared of their own power.
Mhm.
So there's examples. I can only give examples when it comes to religion from Christianity because that has been the lens or the context that I've experienced in my life. Um, but there's examples where um you're you're encouraged to be solely reliant upon an external source. Um, and there's a practice of seeking outside of yourself and separating yourself from um, God or God energy, right? And when you do that, you no longer believe that you have true power, sovereignty, autonomy, agency over self, and that you're something to be controlled, um, guided, restricted in some instances. And so people don't trust themselves to be free beings.
Mm.
Most of us want to be told what to do.
Yeah,
Most of us want to be um, led. And that's not just because you were born that way. No, um, we've been guided, uh, coerced, maneuvered. And now, because especially at young ages, we're malleable,
yeah,
depending on your environment, that's what shapes you for the
yeah,
most part, right? And so you don't learn how to uh for most people, if you're in that space, it's very difficult for you to step outside of that way of thinking.
yeah,
And you're always looking for um, instruction um, from something that isn't always serving you as an individual.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I 100% fully wholeheartedly agree with that. And I feel like the time that we're in now, the times that we're in now, it's going to be imperative to really dive into your own sovereignty because so much of what people have kind of lived their lives by, um, the beliefs that they've held, we're in a time where everything is about to be thrown up in the air. And for someone who has overly attached themselves to certain identities, that can be difficult, extremely difficult. If everything you think you know is just thrown up in the air for debate when you were so sure that this is how things were. And so the way to get ahead of that is to, from now, start opening your mind to the idea of, okay, everything I think I know, perhaps that needs to be up for debate. Like take control of that yourselves rather than someone else doing it for you.
Mhm.
Become open to the idea that multiple truths can exist at once. Become open to alternate perspectives, and become opening to start asking questions that are outside of the bounds of outside of the bounds that you've set yourself.
Mhm.
And I feel like this is a huge part of the purpose of this conversation as well, because like you said, we're tapping into things we're discussing things um, that may sound extremely foreign to a lot of people. Um, but there's a lot of things that are extremely foreign that are actually actively happening right now,
Mhm.
and in terms of going forward and what the future looks like, especially when I think of the idea that we are living in this cyclical manner as a human race, as a civilization. I feel like we are at a um, we're in an interesting time in which this age of supreme knowledge and information that is available to us right now um, is perhaps really crucial and a really wonderful thing in terms of people can now utilize this information to see the ways in which beings before haven't taken heed in terms of um, embracing evolution, the evolution of things. Like, for example, knowing now that ancient doesn't necessarily mean prehistoric and primitive and less advanced than us, we
Mhm.
can now take that information and start looking at these innovations in a more open perspective and not being the last to kind of make use of technology
Yeah.
and things like AI, etc. Like and that's a huge part of why we are even here and having these conversations and doing the things that we're doing because it benefits us a lot. And speaking on women specifically, because that is who, for example, Emerald Club is for, like it's really beneficial for us to start thinking and operating in expansive ways because the things that are available to us, the things that are out there, the way in which the world is going, there's so much that we can benefit from in terms of um, helping us to dive deeper into our feminine energy and embrace more of that and start operating um, from a place of flow rather than hustle. There are things that we can tap into and dive into together right now that are um, innovative, um, but we just need to be open. You just need to be open.
I think that's the biggest key. And I think the biggest takeaway is to remain open. There's so much knowledge and information and resources out there that your best position to receive divine guidance and to find out what resonates is to remain open and to new knowledge and perspectives that may come about, and also hold space for the fact that everything that you have believed to be true up until this point is up for debate and is up for question, and that you can choose to have this in your basket right now, but if in 6 months' time, 2 years' time, 2 weeks' time, something comes up that contradicts what you originally thought to be true, that is also okay. Because I think a lot of people feel like identity has to be fixed, as in
Mm.
it's in a fixed state. Like, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is how I operate, these are my beliefs, this is this and this is that. And it's like, actually, the natural progression of this entire universe is expansion, is growth.
Mm.
So there's no way that at 20 you're going to be the same person you were at 40, and if you at 40, and if you are, something's something's a little off, right?
Something's amiss.
Something's amiss. And at 40, the person that you were at 60, and the growth in everything, nothing sits still, everything is moving, everything is vibrating, like literally down to an atomic level.
Yeah.
Everything is always moving. And so remaining open to the fact that whatever you have understood about life up until this point is great and has served you up until this point. But from this point on, I encourage like openness,
Yeah.
expand perspectives, expand your what you say, container for new knowledge and perspectives to
Yeah.
come in. It doesn't mean you take on absolutely everything, because discernment is key. There's a lot of people with a lot of information out there, and a lot of information that doesn't resonate, or things that aren't true for you, or you can't, as a society, we don't necessarily agree to that as being truth for us, right? So yeah, openness is everything. I wanted to dive more into some other ancient innovations, I suppose, that um aren't necessarily maybe talked about, or people aren't very aware of, because I really want to break the taboo of ancient meaning prehistoric,
Yeah.
um, because I just really feel like it's really important to wrap your head around that. We touched briefly on uh, something major, which is moving consciousness from one being to another. And that's something that they were doing in ancient Egypt. I'm just looking at my notes here because I wrote a few things um, from a few a few spaces. Um, there was yes, I remember years ago, um, like many years ago, there was a conversation on cloning that took place.
Mm,
I don't, I wasn't really tapped into the conversation or plugged in heavily at the time. But I've always been aware of, there's some people that say that there are clones out there, and some people that are like,
yeah.
no, that's just total mythology and that doesn't exist and blah, blah, blah. Only to fast forward and find out that no, that's an actual thing. Like,
Yeah.
not like, do you remember years ago? There was a thing about, I think it might not have been in the US, but in the UK, I think it was like Dolly the pig or something. Dolly
It's
the
it's
pig
it's
was
it's
like a
coming.
clone. I think it was it might be something else, but I may be mixing up. But I'm saying I remember there being conversations on cloning, and I remember looking at and realizing that there's an actual legal ban on cloning um, in countries. In certain countries, you're not allowed to do it, which means that it exists.
Yeah, you can't ban something
You
that
can't ban something that
can't
doesn't exist,
happen.
right? And so, um, learning recently that cloning human beings is a real thing, that you can take a skin cell and that skin cell can be turned into stem cells, that can be turned into multiple stem cells, that can then be turned into whatever, be implanted in an artificial womb, and then actually create a full-on human clone. Kind
Sorry.
of, kind of, kind of crazy, right? Um,
Mhm.
there's just, I don't know, I'm just thinking about some of the other things that I came across. I'm not sure if you can think of anything off the top of your head. Oh, weather. So in certain ancient civilizations, you will hear about people or gods or goddesses or people being able to manipulate weather.
Right.
That takes place now. And it's public knowledge, right?
Right.
They call it cloud seeding.
Yeah.
So hence why in the middle of the desert in Dubai, you can get torrential rain
Right.
because they can fire some kind of frequencies, some kind of electrical pulses into the clouds to generate rain. Now we think this is like it is for our civilization and advanced technology, right? But
Yeah.
that's things that were talked about that were taking place in ancient civilizations. And I also feel like you said we're in an era of like, I think was the phrase you said, like super information or super something. You said it was like super
Yeah.
access to a lot of information, basically.
Yeah.
Regardless of the term, I was thinking to myself, that is also quite problematic for our generation and our civilization, I should say, because
Yeah.
we're in a time where, because we have so much access to knowledge and information in a way that um, we believe people didn't have before, we can also think that we're top of the ladder when it comes to the type of technological advancements because of the sheer wealth of knowledge and information that we
Yeah.
have. And they're not the same thing. Like being
Yeah.
able to have access and record data in the way that we are recording it and utilizing and sharing it via AI doesn't mean that we um, are superior uh, in technological advancements at all as a
Right.
civilization. Um, just how we're utilizing AI, let's say, there could have been other systems that were used to harness, record data that doesn't look the way that it looks today. But
Hmm.
we make the assumption that today we're in an era where all this information is so readily and easily accessible. That's because it's external. But how about the conversation about having access to data from the beginning of time that's already encoded within your DNA? Who's
You
got more
know,
knowledge then?
this is the thing. And we are like this whole kind of mass awakening that's going on and has been going on for a while, but is I feel like it's speeding up now. I feel like there are people out there who are becoming privy to certain information. And people talk about like psychic abilities and the clear senses and things, and um, even that can sound woo-woo to some, but that knowing and that knowledge, that inner knowledge that seemingly comes from nowhere, is coming from somewhere.
Yep.
And even the people who are not perhaps particularly comfortable with um like labeling themselves as psychic or whatever are coming into information that they probably want to share and feel cool to share, but because of how society has been set up and how we've been taught that you need to have been taught externally for anyone to respect or recognize anything that you're saying, it holds a lot of people back. And it's like, I feel like this is also a call to those out there who are downloading some serious information and they don't feel like they are qualified enough to share it. Share it. Share it, because more and more um, information is being shared with the world, that we have this information encoded within us. And so a lot of the time it's a remembrance that we are having when we're having these downloads, and they're not coming from they're not coming from nowhere. They're coming as our DNA continues to awaken. And
Agreed.
so it's just so important. It's that rewiring, isn't it? Because we've been taught it's the external first, and we get all our information externally. We have to get these certifications, we have to get these degrees, and in order for people in society to recognize us as this and this and that. And it's like that's not even scratching the surface of what we're capable of. It's not scratching the surface. And we are moving into a time where that is going to be it's going to be recognized that there are people who have these knowings, and this idea of psychic abilities is not going to be so woo-woo, because there are real life explanations behind this shit.
Well, this is what I was gonna say a couple of things because everything you said, yes, everything. Everything you said, yes. I think this is two things came into mind. The first one is this is why her Emerald Club exists. This
Mhm.
is a space for those who have felt that way, that have some shit to share and are like, you know what, I haven't felt encouraged to share because I don't feel like I've got the credentials. I don't feel like I've got what I haven't got a PhD or a degree in this and da, 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 da. But you've got all of this knowledge, resources, and information. Share, 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 share. If you feel like this is like divinely guided information that you must share, you need to share it because you do not just yourself a disservice, but others. Other people are requiring and needing this information for them to evolve, to grow, to expand. I'm so grateful for all the people that have shared knowledge and information and resources because that has enabled me to get to where I am today. Unlocking certain things and me
Yeah.
resonating with certain types of content. The second thing I wanted to say was the fact that this is why I always say science doesn't create anything. People can disagree with me on this. Science does not
Nothing
create.
new under the sun.
Nothing new under the sun. Science, love science. I'm very much into science, very much into learning more about quantum mechanics, quantum physics. I have an interest. But what I've come to understand is that science makes sense of this in this entire existence. It puts language to phenomenons that we didn't previously know or understand. It creates theories. It Science doesn't create anything. And you might say, but no, but we've been able to make this in life and we've been able to create this and make this. What we've actually done, and I think Billy Carson actually touches on this, is he talks about um the fact that we actually all we're doing in this experience, in this existence, is manipulating atoms,
Literally
protons.
rearranging them.
We rearrange them. We don't actually create anything. We learn how to rearrange something to create what we need to create. The power already exists. That's when you really think about that, it's like, yeah, we haven't, this cup that I'm holding here. Yes, somebody has been able to, on the surface in our 3D mind, 3D existence, we're like, yeah, somebody made this cup. Yes, I'm not going to deny that on a basic level. Definitely but what I'm saying is that all these atoms, all these molecules, all of these things, they already exist. And
Yeah,
we're doing is plugging in and learning how to manipulate. That's creativity right there.
yeah.
So I'm trying to think what sparks that thought about science, but just the fact that it's not it's not creating anything where we're learning more about this existence, we're discovering more. And so you don't have to feel like you've got all the answers, because science doesn't have all the answers. And I think we're in a time where people think science has all the answers.
Mm.
That's why you have scientists, because they're still on the journey of discovering,
Yeah,
learning, understanding. They'll tell you there's so much more about this universe, this planet, this universe, the galaxy, and all the billions of other galaxies out there to exist
yeah.
that we have no idea about. There's so
But
much
it's
unknown.
interesting. I feel like things are going to speed up in terms of the knowledge that we are discovering as humans because we are now recognizing that there's information within us. For a long time, it has been an external search for things. And now, don't get me wrong, I do feel like there has been recognition for abilities, people with abilities out there, not maybe in the masses, but have been utilized at higher levels by higher level um, people at higher positions within governments, etc., who have recognized that these type of things exist in terms of people with knowledge that they don't know, um, that didn't come externally, it came internally, but I feel like they have made use of people who are able to tap in that way because they know that exists. Um, but this is happening on a mass scale now,
Mm,
which is why there is such a um, shift in awakening and such a speed in awakening because now individuals are doing that, and so these type of conversations are reminders for those individuals that the information that you are getting internally and that you are downloading internally is coming from somewhere more powerful than you can even know, a grid bigger than the World Wide Web. Like this is a grid a million times more intricate and bigger than that, and you are tapping into that. So absolutely trust, even if it's not something that you don't think you're going to share on a wide or global scale, utilizing that information to elevate your own life.
mm,
Like you don't need to be validated in that. And so many of us, I feel like as the generations continue, people are gonna be born into this way of thinking. But a lot of us have a lot of undoing to do in terms of just the way society has conditioned us to feel like we aren't powerful and that we don't have access to information and that we don't know shit. But we
mm,
actually know everything. And being in touch enough with yourself and being able to feel yourself enough, um, you're going to be able to discern the external information that resonates with you and the external information that doesn't resonate with you. We've got a lot of information out here, and we're going to continue to have a lot of information out here. And it can be overwhelming, but that is why you always revert back to self first. Your body is going to tell you. Like this body is such an intricate and intelligent machine, and most of us are utilizing such a small percentage of it. Your body's going to tell you, and that's why it's so important to start operating in a sovereign way.
Mhm.
It's time. Everything's up for question. Everything is up for question, and anything or anybody that tells you that things can't be up for question is a red flag,
Mhm.
because everything is up for debate. And it's just about being willing enough to acknowledge when certain ideologies or certain agreements that you've had within yourself and belief systems that you have subscribed to are no longer resonating. It's important to be willing to put stuff to the side so that you can be shown the direction that you really are supposed to be going into.
That is so important because I want to make clear that I'm not saying to anybody to um start off by disregarding anything you've ever been taught in terms of um denying it as fact for yourself. What I'm saying is be open to receiving other knowledge and information. Because when you do that, you'll become more discerning about what you've taken on as truth and whether that is actually truth and whether that actually resonates for you. So I'm not saying if you hear something that is contradictory to something that you've learned, example, something you've learned in the Bible, being okay with listening to the thing that is contradictory, right?
Yeah,
And learning and understanding, okay, from a logical stance, if you're going to go with that angle,
yeah.
does this make sense to me? Is this resonating? And then being honest with yourself. Are these feelings that you're feeling because something isn't actually true? Or is it that it contradicts what you've known to be true? And there's the discomfort.
Hmm.
They're different things.
Yeah.
If you
Oh,
can be honest with
100%.
yourself about that, then you're on the journey of, okay, learning and expanding, learning and expanding. And I think that is just the aim of the game here. It's learning and expanding. And like you said, if you come across something that, knowledge and information that you don't necessarily feel called to share it with everybody, you're not ready to share with other people, integrate it into your own life and experience, because that's where we create the biggest and most powerful impact. If everybody starts honoring themselves, making those changes in their little small experience, the impact that that has on a
Yeah.
global universal scale.
Yeah.
It's not about doing the most or starting a YouTube or whatever it is. It's
No.
about the impact that you make in your own life and existence and the people that you um you're in connection with and how you interact with those people. Are you maneuvering and operating in truth,
Mm.
authenticity, with integrity,
Yeah.
not just doing and agreeing to and saying things that you've just taken on as part of your identity. And now that's just how you do things. That's just how it is. It's however you want it to be.
Literally.
It's however and whatever you want it to be. I thought that came into mind as well, talking about going back to ancient civilizations and ancient innovations and is a going back to the same Billy Carson video. I mention his name quite frequently because he's the last video researcher that I've plugged into. Literally, was it yesterday or day before, something like that. So
Yeah.
things are quite fresh in our minds. But he talks about the fact that there's been this big push by governments and billionaires to launch rockets that are going to Mars, right? And I think it's Elon that wants to inhabit Mars by a certain date. I think that was 2050 now. He
Right.
wants to inhabit Mars by 2050 and take something like, it was like 80,000 or 80,000 plus people with him, um, to Mars by 2050. Now, can I just remind everybody that 2050 is literally 25 years away.
Wow, that's
25 years
in
is
our
insane.
lifetime.
So that's in our lifetime. You're talking about leaving this planet Earth and going to not another country, not another city, not another park. We're talking about leaving the planet Earth and going to another planet, Mars, right? So in the context of thinking about ancient civilizations, right? I something just came into my mind where it's like we as humans, as a civilization, have been quite resistant. And you know what? I'm gonna retract that because it's not all of us. And sometimes the Western world will have you believe that this is a global consensus, and it's not
Mm,
necessarily that way. We sometimes we got to remember that there's other cultures out there that don't subscribe, but we're shown what we're shown, so we believe it to
yeah.
be the planet. But anyway, um, we're we're told that there's up until recently no such thing as aliens, and that as far as we know, we're the only life forms in this planet. But the mere fact that we're going to another planet makes us an alien. That's the first thing.
Right.
Makes us an alien. That's the first thing. That makes we don't belong. That's not our planet, right? So we going to Mars would make us an alien. Just to throw that out there. But the second thing is that going back to the idea that ancient doesn't mean primitive. The things that we're doing in this civilization, a lot of those things have been done in previous civilizations. And so the idea that aliens or humans were I don't know how to say this, interplanetary species, is it really far-fetched to think that previous civilizations could have had this experience? If we're currently having this experience, everything that we're doing now, that we're thinking is a new discovery, there's historical evidence to show, oh, we're not ahead of the curve.
No.
We're not ahead of the curve. We're doing things differently, using different resources, different
Yeah.
mechanisms, different technology, but we're not necessarily the first or the last to be doing these things. So I was just thinking about that,
Yeah.
learning that Mars is habitable. We can't be planning to go to Mars if it's not habitable.
Right.
Let's just think about that on a logical stance, right? We can't be planning to go to another planet if there's if it's not habitable. Meaning
Right.
everything that you learn about Mars, about it being just this dusty red planet that can't hold life, has to be a lie. If in 25 years we're planning to take 80,000 people, I just wanna put that out
Literally.
there.
Literally.
25 years, Elon is planning to take 80,000 plus people. Also, the second thing that was raised in that conversation that makes me chuckle, because once again, we've got to be open to this information. The people that are planning to go to Mars are going to be wealthy people. These are people who can afford to get on a rocket and go to another planet, right? Meaning these people are living lives on Earth that are full of abundance, wealth, creature comforts. They're living good in terms of tangible things and resources. That's what I mean by good, living good in
Yeah.
that way. I think we've got to reframe how we think about Mars and what that potentially looks like, because
Yeah.
I don't see them going from creature comforts,
To
Christian
tense.
environment to tents and huts on a dusty red planet.
No.
So when you think about that and you apply some critical thinking and start evaluating, you have to understand that actually, what is actually taking place on Mars?
Yeah.
If in 25 years, that volume of people, um, we're planning to take that volume of people to
Right.
another city, not country, to another
Right.
planet. So yeah, just has me thinking, um, what the significance of that is, even, hear me out, even when thinking about religion,
Mm.
because on earth as it is in heaven, that I didn't hear Mars,
Sorry.
Jupiter, or Saturn. Do the laws apply in Mars? I don't know.
I don't mean
I'm
to
just
crack up, but it's
saying
just
there's so much
there's
thinking
so,
in
and
an
you
expensive
know,
way.
people might, hear this information and think, you know, what what do I do with this information? What do I do with this information? Because like you said, it's going to be triggering, and then it might feel kind of overwhelming, um, but just the mere fact that everything that's kind of been shoved down people's throats and to be accepted as truth it's up for debate. So just take that and run with your own sovereignty. Run with your own. If you have felt like you have been restrained or dissuaded from diving into your own research and going into certain things, now's the time to just do that and free yourself. Free yourself so that you may come into the existence that really resonates with you and come into your own power and really just understand your power as a sovereign being, and start to co-create the life that you actually want to live, because that's the whole point of this. A lot of people have been living because they feel like wherever they go afterwards, that's the place that matters. It's actually not. It's actually not. It's the life that you're living now. And so what can you do now to start operating in a more expansive, heart-centered, loving way, in a way that in a way that feels free, in a way that doesn't feel like you're abandoning yourself at every corner, And so that's what you do with this information. It's just perspective shifting, right? Because like we said, we're in a time where all of this information that we just discussed, all the information that you just said now is coming to the forefront, and people are going to be like, what on earth is going on? But
Come
instead
on.
of feeling like especially if you've overly identified with something, it can feel like a death to who you are, because who am I now that my innate truths are being challenged? And shift the perspective and say, this is an opportunity for me to free myself. This is an opportunity to find out who I really am outside of all of this.
Yeah. I think that was a really important I think that was a really important point to make, because it can be extremely overwhelming when you come into contact with so much information. And it can be discombobulating. Suddenly you're feeling chaotic in energy because it's like, where do I go with this? But like you're saying, use this as an opportunity to really dive deeper into self and question what you need to question everything, and just check that you're living in alignment with your highest truth.
Yeah,
That's literally it. There's certain things that we um can't control in the context of on a grand scale.
yeah,
So I can't go and stop the wars that are happening personally um across the continent. But what I can do is live in a way, speak up for certain things in a way that creates impact,
yeah,
right? And is focusing again on the micro, perceived micro, because
yeah,
that's just relative. That's in relation to looking at those macro things. Because to me, the micro is the macro. That
yeah,
is the bigger picture, right? It's changing our perspective of what expansion, how we understand expansion, because we
yeah.
think it's getting bigger, but it could also be getting deeper. So,
Mm,
it's when you start to think about like a whole nother conversation, but just how you understand and view the universe, the world, growth, time. There's just so much to it,
yeah.
but you don't know what you don't know. And if you are watching this, whenever you're watching this, you haven't come into contact with this live by accident. There's no
Yeah.
coincidences to me. It's you've come across it because there's something in here that you need to be aware of, or you need to see, or is going to activate something or trigger something, good, bad, or indifferent. So whether it's a wonderful comment or a terrible comment, it's irrelevant to me because the point is that once you've seen it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
thing.
Once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. I'm just trying to think, is there anything else that you wanted to touch on?
You know, I think there are lots of topics to branch off from this, I think. Which
Oh,
I
I've got
feel
one
for
thing.
okay, okay.
This is completely random, but this is an example of things being a social construct and how you can uh start questioning everything, right? So
Yeah.
I think I was describing this to you maybe, but learning about time zones.
Yeah.
And if you look at a global map, so the or whether it's a globe or a map, and you look at time zones on that, you'll see that they're separated by lines that run vertically across the globe, right? But it's better to think of it in terms of a sphere, so an actual globe. And those lines that run, the first thing that you'll notice is that they're not completely straight. So you'll have a line that runs down, but then may branch out slightly and then may come in slightly. Um, and that's to accommodate for land mass. So there's some countries, for example, that span, let's say, for example, three time zones. But rather than that country being split up into three time zones, that country will just be in one time zone, even though landmass wise it covers three. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right? So that's the first thing. So even that, you're like, oh, so it's that reminder that this isn't these time zone things are truly made up.
Made
Yeah, whether
up.
it's clever or not is irrelevant to the point that I'm making, but they're truly
Yeah.
made. The second thing is that at the when you look at the time zones on a globe, they start from the top, so let's say North Pole, and they end down at the bottom, which is South Pole. And then they all start from that same point at the top and the same point at the bottom of the globe, right? As they go down, because it's a globe, the meeting point at the top, where it's the North Pole, all the time zone lines meet. Same thing with the bottom of the globe. All the time zone lines meet. So imagine taking like a slice of an orange and you start from the top and you cut it. You end up with this like cute little
Right.
whatever it is. Now, each time zone is roughly separated by, let's say, 15 degrees on average, because it is 365. I believe that's the math. I could be incorrect, but they're
Or 360.
sorry, 360 is the math. So um but where they meet at the top isn't separated by 360 degrees. They all meet at the same point, meaning that when you're at the North Pole or the South Pole, there is no time, or
Right.
it's all time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that in itself, I don't know if that's made sense to everybody, but hopefully that does make sense. That in itself shows you that there's so much that is just constructed
Yeah.
that you agree to. That when I travel to Florida or South Carolina or North Carolina, there's a time zone that I agree to
Mm,
participate.
yeah.
I've made that agreement that I'm going to jump on that time zone, because if I don't, I'm going to miss my flight, because everybody else is in agreement with this is the time in this region.
Yeah.
But it's completely fabricated. And I don't think many of us really look at life that way, that there's nothing wrong with having agreements, because having the agreements enables for us to work together cohesively as a society.
Yeah.
We're not saying it's good or bad. That's irrelevant. The point is that everything is up for discussion and debate, because everything is constructed. So you
Yeah.
can make the agreements that you want to make and reject the ones that don't work for you. You have to figure what those are for yourself.
Yeah. I think that's a really interesting point to make because a lot of people are unaware that a lot of the things that they are taking part in, they have agreed to take part in. A lot of people don't realize that all of these things are by choice. And of course, everything has a consequence, and that's not necessarily a negative consequence. It just is. Everything has a consequence. Um, so people might say, oh, well, I can't not agree to this because of such and such. Okay, that's your reasoning, but you also have a choice not to agree and to go on a different path, you know? So, and like you're saying, we're not saying this is good or bad, it just is. When you put yourself in that position of understanding that you are choosing all these things, you can start to, like you said, everything's up in the air. All these decisions and choices that you've been making are up in the air. You can choose to set on a different trajectory. And whether or not you may not know all the steps to that will kind of unfold when you take on another trajectory, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to take you into a bad place. And so that's why I think just once we can release those identity attachments and really cement ourselves in who we truly are outside of these vessels, we can become open to the multitudes of timelines available to us, the multitude of possibilities and the multiple truths are out there. You can live without shackles, without feeling like you're shackled to one particular route or timeline. And that is expansion. The universe literally exists to continue to expand on itself. We are part of that. We're designed to do that. And it's when we hold a lot of resistance to expansion that we start to suffer.
Mm.
And that shows up in many, many ways. And it shows up in our realities and things not going a particular way or just feeling um lost or without reason and purpose. Sometimes it's about letting go, releasing that resistance. It's always about releasing the resistance. We want to learn how to flow.
Yeah. And that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother time. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I really liked what we've covered today. I feel like this is a can. We've opened a can to even further discussions.
Mhm,
And this is an insight into the type of expansion that we speak of when we are discussing her Emerald Club.
mhm.
And on our platform, on our own platform, we'll be delving into really specifics of certain things. And if you think this is out there, there's a
A whole
whole other
tunnel.
levels, whole tunnels to
Yeah, you
the
got to
to the
swim
depths
there.
that we're willing to go for the sole purpose of encouraging expansion, and encouraging that feminine expansion which is needed at this particular time as well. So um yeah, I don't know if you had any more to say on this. I think this will be good to
Yeah.
transition.
Yeah, I think we've covered what needed to be covered for today. Like you said, this is an insight into the kind of conversations and topics that we diving into with her Emerald Club. And Divine Fridays, we scratch the surface on some of those. We leave you with food for thought. Um, and we welcome conversation and questions. So if you have anything that you want to share or say, please do add it to the comments below. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, please, because we want this
Yes.
to really reach out to as many divine feminine beings as necessary, as needed, that will truly love and appreciate the content and are keen to raise a collective consciousness, particularly with us fellow divine feminine beings. So yeah, grateful that we've been able to connect and have this conversation, and I look forward to further Divine Friday topics. I don't know what next week's one's going to be. We will feel that out.
Yeah.
But typically they're inspired by conversation or things that have happened, resonance that has taken place. Um, at some point over the week. So yeah. Don't forget to hit I was about to say, don't forget to go to heremoldclub.com and click on waitlist.
Join the waitlist.
Join the wait list. Really
And
important.
also, follow us on social media. We are very active on Threads, so that'll be in the description as well. So you can follow the Her Emerald Club account on Threads, which is
Mhm.
at Her Emerald Club. But you can also follow us individually on Threads, which we are hugely active on, build a community and sharing insights as they come in. So mine is at Olivia Alexis Grant. Marie's is at Marie Antoinette Price. That will be in the description as
Perfect.
well. So definitely connect with us on there and definitely share this video. Share this video to any others you feel like would benefit from this type of food for thought, and subscribe because we are going to be back with a lot more. Yes,
Yeah.
I've enjoyed this.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Toodles.